All right, welcome to the Learn Through Loving podcast. I am here with the good friend of mine and old roommate, Rue. How you doing, Rue?
Learning through loving.
Learn Through Loving, yeah?
Learn through loving. I
Yep.
love it. I love it, LT.
Thank you, man.
I'm doing great. I'm
Yeah.
doing wonderful. Yeah, it's a great day. It's a beautiful day to be alive.
Dude, you're telling me, man. We're gonna see where the sun goes with everything, but
Yeah,
we're out here in beautiful Napa Valley. You've been so gracious to help house me as I start my journey.
absolutely.
This is the first stop. I was talking to people about this, like, you've been such a in this past year, I feel like I've grown closer to you than anybody in such a short amount of time due to all the fucking things that have happened in the last year. And whenever I was starting things, I knew you were kind of still getting settled here. But then you're like, "Hey, are you still coming to Napa?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I am." Like, so there's nowhere else I'd rather christen it. Like, I feel like you have been such a supportive person in the last year that this is like where I want to go to give me energy for the rest of my trip.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's beautiful to hear. And it goes both ways, man.
Yeah.
Like this year has been very crazy for all of us in so many levels. And um to have you as my roommate was I couldn't have asked for anybody else. So I'm so grateful for the universe for having us put together and go through the isolation and also what came out of it. There was a
Yeah.
lot of cooking going on within ourselves, and we were able to create that space
Yeah.
and to allow us to breathe and talk and vent and process a lot of shit. So
Dude, I mean, it's great because, I think the mic moved. Give me 1 second, dude.
yeah,
Do you see the video camera?
yeah, it just went down.
Did it just go down?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. I'm gonna adjust that and
Yeah,
then
no worries.
if I'm right here. mm, Perfect. Okay,
Yeah,
we can resume.
awesome.
My apologies.
No worries.
So what I was gonna say is something. Um, hmm. This past year, meeting, Corona, whatever stuff. I don't even remember. But that's it doesn't really matter. I think that I'm with you when you said like the universe getting us to go together. Um, I know we had both sides of the story on there, but just like how we met was literally I looked up roommates.com and I was looking for people and I'd gone to a few places and I was like, these all suck, dude. And then and I had like one more on there. Of course, there's always one more. And
Right,
and
right.
you had reached out, I believe. You're like, yeah, hey. And then so I went and met up with you, and like 20 minutes into us talking, you're like, so you want to sign the lease tonight? Like that's what I remember. It was so awesome.
Right, right. And from my side, it was the last day of my membership.
Yeah,
And I'm like, you know what? For 30 days, nobody has come through that really felt comfortable for me because, as you know, I really like to keep my home
yeah,
peaceful, calm, and I truly believe in the energy. And the energy was not aligned. And I was like, all right, I got a few more hours. I just opened the laptop and I saw your profile. And I'm like, he seems like a cool guy. Let me
yeah,
just reach out. And that's it. And yeah, it felt just right from the moment you walked in.
yeah,
And
dude. 100%. I didn't know what to expect, but it was, and you were like, "Do you want to sign up?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." Like, I want to lock this down.
right.
Like, and it's all like I felt good about that. And I remember when I left there, I was on the phone with Maria, and I was like, "Yo, I just signed a lease," and she's like, "What?" Like, because
Right.
I'd been seeing these places, and she was just like, "Dude, awesome." I'm like, "Yeah, this is it. This is gonna be great." Um, and like you said, you mentioned like you like to have a certain energy in the house. There's always that awkward stage. The first like month or so, we were both still in our auto routine, different things. But I really started feeling that, something interesting about your place is like you had a really open concept. I'd come downstairs and there would just be like waves, or really chill music on TV, and you would just be there meditating, as someone that likes to identify as that. It's nice to see that in your roommate, right? To be in
Absolutely.
a space where someone else is trying to do the work.
Right.
Because then it kind of motivates you. Or you go down there and you're just sitting, and then I just sit, and we can both sit in silence
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm always one that feels like I have a lot to say or that I need to say something, but I that's just because I can. Around people I'm comfortable with, I like silence too. I like when I don't feel like I have to say every thought out loud. So that was something that was really cool to see, and like the whole idea of watching waves on TV like was foreign to me. The first time I saw it, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like that doesn't make any sense. But I grew to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So how did you find that was like something that like either your experience with energy or like finding that putting a 10-hour YouTube video of waves like fit you?
So, like I said, I was born and raised in Sri Lanka,
Mm.
and the beach was very, very close to me. Grew up by the beach. My school was next to the beach. Took it for granted. I didn't know what I had
Yeah.
until I traveled around the world. Especially when I moved to Arizona, I was like, oh wow, I miss it. So, every time life gets tough, every time I need to just let energy flow, I just drive to San Diego. And just sitting by the beach, it's like a comb just brushes through your scalp
Mm.
and just refreshing me, and then just cleansing. So when times get tough, I guess it's physical memory too, and visually seeing it and hearing the crashes, and also just manifesting. I want to be there. If I can, I'm just gonna at least create the surrounding, the ambience
Yeah.
to let my sensors respond to it. So pour myself a cup of coffee,
Yep.
sit in the,
Coffee on the beach.
yeah, having coffee. Yeah. So that's what it was basically for me. And it's soothing. It's very soothing. It just calms me in every possible way I can think of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know we obviously lived together a lot and had a lot of conversations, and I know we've been catching up for the last day, so we might double up on some things, but that's
Yep.
all good. Um, I remember too, just finishing off with the wave thing, and maybe I'll ask you a question or something. I remember when COVID really started, and our relationship was kind of growing from there. You were since you're a teacher, you're a Montessori teacher, you're having to teach from home, and you'd be teaching, and across the room on the TV, it would be silent, but you'd still have the waves coming in as like, and I thought that was so cool. You're still trying to breed. You have this invasive desk. Like this goes against a lot of the things for people that know Montessori. It's a very more hands-on approach than traditional schooling and stuff. So the idea of doing it online for 1 hour a day is kind of doesn't really make that much sense, at least not to me from what I heard and learned about this. But you still made it work, and you did what you needed to do for yourself so you could be there for the kids, right? That's what I saw. And it made me think like, what do I have in the background whenever I'm doing my job from home? And usually it was like YouTube or some like Twitch TV or like whatever the hell it was. And it was like, like sometimes I'd find myself distracted or high energy if I hear high energy in the back. So this is something that kind of can soothe.
You're right. Perception is everything.
Mm.
And the children can have an amazing day. They could be happy, joyful, but if you're in a shitty mood, you're not going to see any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So COVID hit. All of a sudden, reality changed, life changed, So
Yeah.
I had to still keep my peace of mind, and I need to be in a very peaceful place to approach these children. We've never done Zoom before, these 6, 7, 8-year-olds. So I had to adapt, but I also had to be this representative,
Yep.
of peace and kindness and patience and love. So I just continue to create what I've been creating in the house to help me. So even though the waves crashing is something I have to mute, just visually watching that, it's a quick little break from staring at the computer.
Yeah.
But even that just gives me that quick little reminder. Yeah, you're in good space. You're in good space. You're
Yeah.
here for the children. You're creating this space for them. We're all in this together. So finding my little niches to work the magic and stay present, I think that's one of the important things.
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head. That resonates so much with me is when people talk about meditation, or a lot of times I'm like teaching people meditation, or I had sponsees or whoever it was. We have this idea of Eastern being up there meditating for hours and going to absolute nothingness, and that's what it's about. But what I really try to educate people on is that for me, what meditation is, I mean, it can be used a lot of different ways, but it is to remember to be present. It's to practice, to train that mind to be present. And I think you illustrate another way for us to do that. Some people I've known, they have an alarm that goes off on their phone every hour. It dings to remind them while they're working. Every hour, they take one deep breath and come back out, and at least they have that. And you can look and you see the wave come in, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't have to take anything too seriously, right? I am me. I'm right here, you know? I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't happen overnight.
No,
Lot of contemplating, journaling, meditating, sitting, walking, just trying to figure out what works. And as you know, my current reality, I don't have a TV with ocean views,
yeah,
but I still need to find ways to stay present. So,
yeah, we've got this.
right,
5-minute walk.
exactly.
That's something that we talked about. I'm glad you mentioned some of the things you did, because I had talked with Jade about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Of people say they had to do the work and get to where they're at, but they don't say what it was. Like you just mentioned a handful of things. Journaling on a consistent basis, sitting on a consistent basis, like just being. We would have those times you just sat on your couch and just were and kind of tried to pay attention. And every so often you'd be like, what are you thinking about right now? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I got to actually say this. Or going for walks. We would
Right.
go for walks. And, it sounds so simple when I wasn't in this place that I'm at now, it was like, why would you go for a walk? Like, what could you possibly accomplish? Or like, especially going for a walk without music or something like that, like just going and seeing what comes up. And, not always in a place to go hiking. Like I've found a tremendous benefit out of hiking. I love that. I love seeing the places I go when I push my body and the views that you earn, all these different things, and being just in touch with nature. There's all these things, and you can get that from anything. It could be just walking, like there's walking meditations, sitting on a couch with just nothing, maybe just the waves coming in. That's a mind fuck for a lot of people. Like, why would you do that? You could
Right.
be on TikTok, or you could be on this thing, or watching political debates or whatever.
I remember when we went for lunch one time, you were like, "Hey, let's be
Oh
present to the,"
fuck yeah, yeah,
and I was like, you know what? That's amazing because I teach that to the children,
yeah.
but I never practice in my own life. If I'm with a friend, I always try to eat and talk at the same time. But the whole point is you're allowing this opportunity for this body to have these nutrients to help you take care of yourself and
Yeah.
your soul too. So that was a very powerful one for me, how we just went quiet for the next 10 minutes, and you're a fast eater and I'm here still eating, and you're like, oh wow.
I felt you're right. I know I am, but I felt like I was more your pace when I was mindful. Mindful eating is something that it goes against what I've practiced for so long, more
Right.
than anything else. Like I've taken time for myself. I'm just gonna make sure this is still on. I'm like in this weird insecure spot, but it goes against, like, when I grew up, whoever ate the fastest and ate the most was the alpha, right? So I was seeing uncles and my father and stuff, and like I was like, okay, someday I'm gonna be the one, right? And then
Right.
I'm the one eating like 4 chili dogs with fucking loaded faster than everybody, and I'm like over fucking eat, like way past my limit, and I'm like,
Right.
I won, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh my god, I can't believe you. And then I'm like, yep, stroke my ego. Like this
Yeah.
is what defines me, and this is my worth. I go to eat with you, and you eat very mindfully, and it reminds me for a few bites, and then what helps is when I'm not speaking. Like if I'm talking, I'll just start autopilot, go right back to it. I noticed when I used to get meals, this is one that I noticed with Maria. She never wanted to have the TV on when we ate, and I was like, why not? Because I need a screen so I can just auto shovel, and then say how good that meal was, instead of like, man, like I've gone on retreats where we took like 2 minutes to eat a raisin. I mean, that's kind of like the other extreme, but
Right.
it's one of those things where you're training yourself.
Exactly.
Um, So this is a question I've been asking people: is what led you to this moment?
There is no one clear, definite answer for me.
Hmm.
Um, because the whole process has just been questioning, trial and error, and then also it's meant to be. All those things are just like mashed up together.
Yeah.
First, there was a time in my life I thought, yeah, you create your own destiny,
Mhm.
you go after what you want. And that has crashed and burned me so hard. You're like, what the hell just went down?
Yeah.
Then you hit this level of surrender. And then so many different things opens up and then things flow. Then you're like, whoa, things are flowing. What's that all about?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
And then opportunities just come and some you take, some you don't. So I honestly don't know the clear answer. But from a spiritual view, I feel like I believe in reincarnation. I've been here before. I feel like I'm an old soul. There are places that I've gone that I, for the first time in this life, I know I've been there.
Mm.
Tears just roll down and memories of deep psych just kicks in and I'm like, what? I've been here? Words can't explain how this body transforms in those kind of regions. So so putting all those things together, I feel like every time you come here, you come with the lessons you learned prior, but the whole point is to tap back into those experiences that led you to this life, and then whatever you're supposed to do next.
Yeah.
And that can come in so many ways. And to me, what's really working is just letting things flow.
Yeah.
Don't push too hard. And if you're in a peaceful place, if you're happy, if you're content, I think that's the ultimate place you're meant to be. And you just gotta continue to work on it, and one thing will lead to the other and to the other to the other. It's just a thousand journey of, what is it, the
The journey of
thousand
steps
steps
begins with one, or
one
whatever.
or something like that. It's like that. It's just momentum. You just take one step forward and then just watch and see how things unfold.
Yeah. That's cool, dude. You know, I we don't need to go back into, because I'd rather talk about more stuff now. But just to throw out there, like, to hear you have that mindset with, with your past. Like, I know we grew up in vastly different places. Like you mentioned, you're from Sri Lanka. You were born there in during the time of their civil. They don't have a civil war right now, right? It's
No.
over. But you were born in the time of the Civil War, so you grew up in this place that was a lot. Like, we think with even COVID that we have to worry about things. Like, you had to worry about a lot more. You're in this state of survival for years while you were growing up, right? And then until you finally, got yourself out of that situation and things are slowly changing, right?
Yes. And what was really interesting is, as an educator now, I was born to it. So I absorbed it. It was unconscious.
Yeah.
Even though because I became conscious, I'm still operating in this plane of information that I sucked. I don't know why I'm tense. I don't know why I'm always vigilant. I don't know why I'm angry.
Yeah.
And I had to do a lot of like
Work.
a lot of work, like
Yeah.
what is going on. So taking myself out of that environment really helped me.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that just triggered me was when I came to the US in 2000. I was like, whoa. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of changes here too, but still I was not in that immediate environment. Within like 6 months, I was way more relaxed, more excited to live and feeling joyful, and 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
When that
Shit.
happened, something in the back of my head just went alert, alert, and it just all just took me back to Sri Lanka.
Fuck.
And that's when I realized I was born to this stuff. So I was just responding everywhere in Sri
The way,
Lanka to
yeah.
that experience. So yeah, it was an eye that was an eye opener for me. I think my spiritual quest.
Yeah. And I appreciate you mentioning, being open to talking about that a little bit. Like, it does take, like, I know it's taken you a lot of work, and I've seen you put in work over the last year, and I can only imagine, we've lived a lot of life, and I know to heal like my past, I've had to do a lot. It didn't just happen. Like this weird expectation I used to have on people is like, oh, they just kept living and then they figured their life out. Like that's what I thought. But that's not it, right? That's a pipe dream.
Right. And we only see the glory moments,
Yeah.
which is the last tip of it. But it's way deeper than that. All that hard work, the trials and errors, the shame, the guilt,
Yeah.
going through those dark holes. We don't see that. People don't even talk about it
No.
because we have become a nation of, or a society or a species of just glorifying everything. And once in a while, there are breakthroughs and people open up and say, no, man, it was hell.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I can relate to this story.
Yeah.
Not to the same capacity, but at some point I was that guy, or I was that girl.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful that we're breaking down the walls and we're showing the ugly truth of being who we are. I think that's the only way to heal and continue to grow, because you can't do this alone.
No.
We have to share our burdens, we have to share our pains, we have to share our ugliness, and that's how we can relate to. And if I just only told you all the glorious moments in my life, I'm a fake.
Yeah.
And I think the amount of moments that you and I can relate to is going to be very little.
Yeah.
From the get go, we were ready to speak our truth, man. This is where we were. It's been shitty and it's ugly and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But that's what really brought us together and really like made us see. It doesn't matter what age or what race or where you were born. We have a very similar story, one way or the other.
We do.
We do.
And yeah, I mean, there's a saying that I always bring up. You mentioned like sharing burdens. Like there was a guy who I knew in AA who said, when we share our pain, we cut it in half, and when we share our joys, we double them, right? But there's a full picture. A lot of times we're going into AA, it's about opening up our vulnerabilities. It's about saying, hey, I'm not fucking okay, right? And this is the first time in my life I feel kind of okay saying that, and other people are like, dude, right on, cool.
Yeah.
I've felt not okay too. And you're like, oh shit, you're not using this against me. And there's all these things because society tells you need to be the way that you see everybody on social media or on TV or whatever it is. There's this portrayal of expertise and success, and that's all life is. It's just, blowjobs and unicorns, right? Like, or whatever you want it to fucking be. Insert things here. But that's, I mean, I've found, I relate almost like I think I get off on talking to people about their pains more, right? Because I want to feel that connection instantly. I know I've pushed away people because I'm like, hey, here's a really fucked up thing about my life, and people are like, why is this dude being so vulnerable? It's kind of off-putting. I mean, there's a lot of people that accept it too, but I've known since I've had this shift that kind of knowing when and how much to open up, that's always a balance I'm trying to find, right?
Right. I mean, to me, I think I remember those painful moments, but I guess I don't emotionally invest my time there anymore.
Yeah.
I can vividly see it. It's a long time ago story. I try my best not to visit those places because then I'm just activating those memories and distracting in the momentum and the path I'm trying to go. But if it's a conversation that needs to have with a person, if that's going to help that person, I am more than excited to bring that experience because it's mine, it's personal, it changed me.
Yeah.
And if the person in front of me is going to gain some knowledge from it to help themselves to redeem their truth, absolutely.
Like, yeah.
But I don't hold it against me anymore.
Yeah.
I've turned that page now, but that doesn't mean I have forgotten.
No.
But I don't give the power to those stories anymore. I can look back and just laugh about the crazy dumb shit and all those painful experiences I went through.
Yep.
So that's I think the difference between now and 10 years ago for me.
Yeah. Well, I relate with you in that. I mean, we've done a lot of this. You know, I was working in the treatment industry and stuff, and I'd been telling you I've been shying away from that. I don't want to just be known as LT the addict, right? I'm LT the human, the person,
Right.
I'm full of love. I'm full of all these different things. I'm full of life, and that's who I am. I'm not. I don't need to still be this identity, and that was necessary though. It's necessary really to face it. Uh, but as we kept talking, I remember you just kept saying like, yeah, dude, this isn't all you are, right? Like little things like that. I don't remember your exact verbiage, but that's the message that I kept getting, and I was like, yeah. And as you know, those seeds I was trying to cultivate, and you were just throwing your few drops of water on there too, and it's all kind of grown up, and it's made my path now very clear to where I like that I have these things in my back pocket, but I don't want to just talk about that stuff all the
Right.
time.
Right. Exactly. And that's the power of the human imagination. We cannot get to point B if we're still stuck in point A.
Mm.
If we're like moving forward, but we're constantly looking back, then
Yeah,
we're gonna trip and fall.
for sure.
You can
Yeah,
stop, take a break, and look back and see how far you've come, and like, damn, right, I'm doing great. Let's go.
yeah,
What a ride this been. But if you like continue to look back and move forward, I think you can move, but it's gonna be a struggle. You're gonna trip, you're gonna fall, you're gonna get yourself hurt, you're gonna be confused, you can get lost. So I think that's where the meditation is such a powerful discipline. It just helps you to stop that wheel or
yeah,
slow it down and just breathe. You're here, you're alive, you're healthy, you're blessed, you're loved. Bring this abundance of joy into your life that is already in you,
yeah,
instead of just heavy you down with the stories that
yeah,
had happened, or our parents, or happened to our friends that we have learned to believe.
yeah.
So
I had this visual that came in my head when you said that of like the looking back thing, right? Of like how many races do you think Usain Bolt would win if he was looking back the whole time, right? Not just like the times where he's like, "Is there? Oh, there's
right,
nobody there. Okay,
right.
cool." Because he does that. You can see that in the races because
Oh
he's
yeah.
so good. But like if he was looking back the whole time, dude, he'd be going. He might, I don't know, man.
I mean,
That's
when
just
you yeah,
the
when you
visual
come
that I
off of
had.
the yeah, when you come off of the track, you're just looking right down, right in
Yeah,
front.
in the moment.
You're looking at your own feet, and you're bending down the first 25 meters, and then you pick up momentum and rise eventually, and then you're at full force, seeing it clear, the winning line.
Yep.
And you might be able to glance a little bit
Yeah.
if you're bold.
Yeah, if you're him, if you're in that spot, but yeah, no. I yeah, I think there I mean, obviously we have our past and we need to honor them, right? And talk about them, you know? There's a saying in AA that says like we don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. I think that's what it is.
Sounds about right.
So it's
I
like it's one of those things I always again a picture. I didn't realize this. I am a visual person. uh for so long I was always like visualization. It's because there's certain visualization meditations where they're like pretend you're on a cloud, and like those ones I see right through. It's kind of
right,
like I'm looking at it as they're trying to hypnotize me, and my mind's like no, 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 we're not going to fall for that.
right,
But what I do all the time is I'm constantly visualizing, giving voices to things or whatever. And what I picture is like a door that's just cracked open. Like it's not locked. You can just pull it open at any time if I need to. Grab some shit out of the pantry and just leave it there. We never have to shut. Who shuts the pantry door, right?
right,
Unless you have like a dog or something. But like
right,
when I grew up, it was always open.
right. And that's what I do with the children too. I mean, that's what Montessori we talk about. We just give the keys to the universe to the child, because even at the age of 6, 7, they're ready. They're ready to absorb what
Fuck
society
yeah.
has to give. And if society is only giving them pain, agony, frustration, misguidance, they they're innocently going to download that as that's how we're meant to live.
Yeah.
And my work has become actually, yeah, that there's all that stuff too, but here's independence,
Yeah.
here's self-care, here's
Community.
here's work, here's community,
Yeah.
here's accountability, here's love, here's ethics.
Yeah.
So I just give them these keys. Go open these doors as well, as much as you being exposed to
Yeah.
others. Go inside, play around. If you love it, good for you. If you don't, That's
Yeah.
fine too. But at least you know there's a door waiting for you in about another 20 years if you decide to go in a different path.
Yeah.
So to me, as an educator, that has become one of my greatest joys in life because I didn't know these doors existed as a child.
No.
I didn't know these doors existed as a teenager, not even as a young adult.
No.
I always thought those limited options were my world.
Yeah.
So I had to go and force myself, kind of break through and even visualize there are so many other doors that I can go and see and explore. So that's where my work becomes so important to me and um, a reason of exploring even more the
Yeah.
deeper levels of myself.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I remember having the first few conversations where I was just asking you about Montessori, and it blew my mind, dude. Like, at least what you do, what your aspect of Montessori is. And we don't need to make this all about Montessori because it is what it is. But just the way you describe things, like right there, of giving these kids a choice. When I was growing up, it was whoever got 100% on the test got a candy bar, and everyone else can go fuck themselves, right? Is
Right.
is the message I heard, where I only missed one on a test of 50 questions. I
Yeah.
got 98, but I don't get the candy bar. I don't get to get up. I'm with everybody else. I failed the test in my head, right? Is
Right.
what it feels like. Or just I remember you telling one thing, and I'm going to say it because I want to say how I remember hearing it.
Yeah.
You were like, you have this kid that really loved art, you know? And they loved, let's just say it's Leonardo da Vinci, right? And you're like, oh, cool. And they keep looking up all the stuff about that, and you're like, do you know where he was born? Well, let's go look at, let's go look it up. And then they look it up, and then you're like, okay, well, what about like, do you know where that is on the globe? Oh, we have a globe right over here. Like, oh, this, and look at that's by this and this, and like, what other paintings did he do? Right? Like, what other things did he do? And you're looking at that, and then it's like, oh, like he was inventing things. Leonardo da Vinci invented things, right? He invented things. Like, look, this thing became this thing. Like, let's look into this, and like all. And I remember you had a better example because you've obviously told the story probably before, but I just remember hearing you're like, and look, with that, I've taught them. We've looked at math, we've looked at the globe, we've looked at art, we've looked at all these different subjects, and like maybe he wrote a paper and there we're getting English in there, and like they're learning, and it's fun for them, and they're learning practical skills. Because whenever you describe that, that's what I do on my downtime. I hear about something like cryptocurrency or something. I'm like, I wonder what that's about. And then I look into it, and then I read articles, and then I'm looking to see like who's the first person, what's the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and like blah 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 blah. And I'm down this rabbit hole, and what I'm doing is what that kid's doing. But I didn't get taught to do that in school. I got taught Wikipedia is the fucking devil, and you need 3 sources, and like it has to be about this. You need to learn about a state, and I'm like, well, I'm not that interested in a state. Maybe I want to learn about Bulgaria. That word sounds cool to me.
Right.
It's like, cool, let's start there.
Exactly.
That's what I feel like you would do, is like, all right, well, let's look at it. What about Bulgaria, right? Or whatever, insert thing here.
Right. Exactly. It's all about just seducing the children where they're at.
Yeah.
You know, we as human beings have compartmentalized our lives and broken into systems when the truth is we're all related.
Yep.
You know, if a group of butterflies get, I don't know, if they die in India, there is actually action. That action has a reaction to where we live today.
Yeah.
It's that subtle, and that's how, I mean, coronavirus is the perfect example.
Yeah.
It's a virus, tiny little virus happened in a small little city.
Yeah.
Within a year, we are on our knees, this entire planet.
Yeah.
So this is the interrelatedness I try to bring to the children. Even your thoughts.
Yeah.
Even the power behind your words. So it's not just subject matter anymore. Even from a very spiritual, from an energetic way, what you put out there is going to affect you tenfold and people around you.
Yeah.
So let's think before we say something. Let's ask ourselves, why are we feeling this way? And these tools need to be given from a very young age, because you and I both know how much hard work it is to break through the cycles when we're in our 20s and 30s and 40s and so forth. and they're so open, and they're non-judgmental at that age. Why not show them?
Yeah.
We're not forcing them.
No.
There's no force. It's like, hey, just check it out. That's all I'm asking,
Yeah.
because it's there.
Well, and I told you this earlier, but that's the beginner mind, right? Suzuki Roshi talks about that. Coming back to this beginner mind. You get to see these kids. They're just coming online, right? Like they say 5 years old is when you get consciousness, when kids pretty much come out of their acid trip they've been on where colors are cool and all this stuff, and they start really being a person. That's when they from what I remember, and there's probably new data, but like around 4 or 5 is when you start getting memories, right? And there's always stuff the body doesn't forget, right? And maybe somewhere in there, but that's when you really start being a person.
Right.
And so you're teaching them this stuff then, and they're just some of the stories you told me, you know, these kids are just love. Like that's what they are, and then they're learning this other stuff. What are we teaching them? That they need to get 100% on this test? Instead, you're treating it more like, let's grade them on their gifts that they have, right? There might be some kid that loves math, and you had, what are those things called? The uh you had those like fucking, you had like a thing where they could count to like a million with the balls or whatever.
Oh, like an abacus?
Abacus. There,
Yeah.
that's the word. I couldn't remember that word.
Right.
You had like that, and dude, I mean, I remember counting to like 100 in like second grade. Like on the wall, there was like 100 things. They're like, we're gonna do one each day of school until we get to 100.
Right.
That's how they taught us the fucking numbers.
Right.
Might have been first grade. I don't remember. I was in
Right.
Apache Junction or Arizona. It was kind of ghetto school, but it was not. They were kind people, right?
Right.
But I remember. I'm going off on a tangent with this shit. I remember my dad taught me about negative numbers when I was in second grade.
Yeah.
And I remember asking the teacher about that, and the teacher was like, no, 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 like, don't even talk about it. Don't introduce this to the kids. You're going to fucking confuse them, right? That was where she was coming from. And I mentioned it every year until I got to like sixth grade, and we finally, that's when they were like, and now we're going to talk about negative numbers. I'm like, like,
Finally.
I've been here. I've already knew about
Right.
this stuff, right? But I wasn't allowed to even explore it. And this is like pre-internet, right? So this wasn't like I could go online and look at free calculus books online or whatever, insert shit here.
Right. Exactly. So that's the thing. We forget how intelligent we are from the day we are born. You know,
Yeah.
like from a spiritual way, we are just abundant. We are manifesting. We are attracting. We are just so powerful.
Yeah.
And we are relearning as adults how powerful we are from the day we were born, because we were programmed to think otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, it's just about preserving whoever this human being has come to become.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see when I work in a classroom, this child is passionate about cooking.
Yeah.
And my job is to introduce her to all sorts of foods. And then, like you said, you know, I'm like, did you know this is came from South Africa? And before it was found in South Africa, it was actually a food that was made in India. Making this geographical connection, and then taking them through the history, and then taking even way back to like, food was a way of life for people. That's
Yeah.
culture, that's love, that's family. And then they need to understand quantities. Okay, if you're going to make this recipe for 10 people, but the recipe is created for 50 people, we need to learn some numbers, how to bring this down.
Yeah. There you go.
Precision, you know, the logical sequences in order to make food. So, and then why don't you write your own recipe book? You know, I mean, that's what this is about.
That's so cool.
and they get to cook and feed our children and give a presentation. But
Yeah.
if I'm like, no, you can cook for 1 hour, let's go and do the math work, you're killing this child's joy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just amazing to me because what I grew up with, right? I mean, it's always Jack Cornfield is this person. I wish I could remember more people's, but he talks about like, what if our kids were judged based on their gifts instead of what their grades are, right? Because there's the system set up to fail for certain people that aren't that good at numbers, right? Or not that good at taking a test even, right? And like instead I had questions on a piece of paper. I don't know, you went to school, you did some school anyway. There was questions like, Jill has 4 apples and Jack has 10 oranges. How many blah, like, and they, these fucking questions, it's like, why do they have these things, right? Like, or like a train's going from this way and this way. I'm like, who rides a train? Like, I don't even think there are trains in Arizona. I mean, I know there are, but they're all cargo. Like, who the
Right.
fuck rides a train? And they ask about snow and like temperatures, and I'm like, it doesn't get below 60 here. Like, what the fuck do I know about snow? I know nothing about snow.
Right.
There's a lot of different things that are like that, but those are what we had to learn fractions that way, right?
Right. Right.
Or trying to figure out the whole 50 people to 10 people thing, and that would be, how much more do you want to do it when it's something that applies to you? How much I've learned when I told my first time when dubstep first came out, right, in like 2009 or something. Like, I know it came out before that for anybody listening that knows, but I heard it here in America about 2009, I think.
Yeah.
And I heard the wub wub, the woo, 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 that shit, and I was like, I'm gonna make that.
Yeah.
I don't know how these guys are doing it, but I'm gonna do it.
Right.
I got online, I went through, there was just starting to be tutorials on it. I started listening to every fucking dubstep person I could, and I started making my own shitty dubstep. And I was so proud. I showed my friends, we played it at a party, and people got down to it. And I was like, I did it.
Right.
And it took literally like 100 hours of work to
Right.
get something that was even remotely, or more. I don't know. I put a lot of time into it. I was on
Right.
drugs, but
That's
you get a lot done when you're on
Right.
Adderall.
right.
But you get a lot done anyway. But
Right.
I don't remember the hours. But that was something exciting to me. And here I am. Suddenly, I'm not a lazy person that people say.
Right.
When it's something that I care about, dude, I put 110% in.
Exactly.
When it comes to, my parents would say that, you're so lazy. And I would say that. And I had a mentor say once, like, you're not lazy. It's not procrastination. It's not laziness. You don't
Right.
care about this thing. That's what it is.
Right. Right.
And suddenly it made me feel empowered when I choose the correct word, right? Now it's I'm not doing it because procrastination is just another word for fear. There's something I'm fearing about, either fear of success, fear of fucking it up, fear, all these different things I'm hiding until it's too late, and then I just do it when I can't hide behind that anymore, right?
Right.
But yeah, when it's something exciting, that's kind of going back to that, like, then they want to put the effort in, they want to learn.
Right. Because for children, I mean, for me, it's not about the product, it's about the process. Because the product can be obsolete in 20 years for them.
Yeah.
But if they learn how to process things,
Yeah.
how to find information, how to communicate that information, how to work in a group, how to be able to listen to someone else's ideas and implement it, how to meet deadlines,
Mhm.
how to collaborate. Isn't that what we need when we grow up? It's never about the product. That stuff keeps changing over time.
Yeah.
So, but if you know how to access information, if you know how to talk, that's, I think, one of the biggest things. That's what, to me, in my classrooms, what I do. They don't come to me at all because they think, oh, Mr. Wu don't know anything. I mean, because they're so used to coming to adults, because adults do the work for them. And I'm like, why are you coming to me? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But there are some books there. You might be able to find it in B, the World Book B, because you're talking about something that start with the letter B.
Belarus, whatever.
Yeah, and they're like flipping through the pages and they're absorbing other information, and then they finally get it. Like, we found it. I'm like, cool. What did you learn? I don't know. I'm like, all right, go back and read.
Yeah.
Now I'm giving them an opportunity to master it. So they got to read it, they got to process it, and when they come and verbalize it, that's my understanding. You know what? This child truly understand the concept now.
Yeah.
So I just sit there most of the time, guiding them.
I love it.
Yeah, but if I become this guy who knows everything, and then they're not gonna learn. Yeah, my ego is gonna be stroked.
Yeah, which there's a time and a place for that, right?
Right, but not with the children.
No, and here's the thing: you say that not with the children. This is why I love conversations. Well, one of the many reasons. That's the word I was trying to say. That I love conversations with you, and the sun's in my eyes, but I'm okay with that because I don't really care at this moment.
We can always pause and change.
We can, but I don't really feel like doing that because we'd have to move way back there.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna deal with it, and I'm just gonna maybe position myself a little bit this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if I'm gonna check this really quick.
Yeah, please.
I guess I can just pause this. Ever so slightly. Feeling good?
Feel wonderful.
We're almost dead. I'm gonna look at this because we might just have to take part two, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, we have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we'll do 10 minutes, and then we will have to do a part two because I'm not even close to being done talking. It only goes, so when we're outside, it only goes about an hour. Well, I think because the sun's on it, it's having to fucking stay cool. Okay, that's fine. So I'm gonna put this back down. I'm just gonna check the time. It's 5:37. Keep this right here. So, one of the main reasons why I like talking to you, right?
Yeah.
One of the many reasons is the fact that you talk about these children, you talk about the way they learn, and it reminds me so much of people, right? So I was dealing with, I sponsored people for a long time, and I dealt with addicts and people that are learning these things, and that's exactly, I always said this mindset that, I mean, I would see there's no right way to do any of this stuff, right? We're all students and we're all teachers.
Yep.
My goal, I would tell sponsees this, I'm like, I'm not going to be the dude that answers every single question for you. And that doesn't mean I'm going to leave them alone. But I want to teach you to fight your own fires. I'm not a firefighter, right? I want to teach you how to do it.
Right.
And so they'd call me and I would help them through it. I would tell them, but I would give them something to do. And the next time they called, if it was about the same thing, I was like, oh, what do you think you should do? Right. I showed you once. Now let's talk through it. Right. I'm still here for you. I want to support you, but this isn't my fire to put. I'm never going to like come pick you up and get you out of danger. You know, I had a sponsee relapse, right? They relapsed in a sober living.
Right.
And they called me. They're like, hey, dude, I got kicked out of the sober living. Can you pick me up? And I was like, well, what'd you get kicked out for? They're like, well, I used. I'm like, well, you didn't have a plan of what you were going to do after that? Because you knew this was the next consequence, right? And they're like, kinda. I'm like, well, you're going to have to figure it out, dude. I love you, and I'll take you to a meeting tomorrow. But you using at 10 o'clock at night is not my responsibility, right? And some people, there's no right way to do it. I could have picked him up, and that wouldn't be wrong. But I told, he's got to sit with his decision, and I'll still be there for him if he's down for it. Right. And the next day we can talk and process and say, hey, we need to make different decisions. But the way you talk about these kids, in the way that I remember you saying, like, you tell people and you'd say, don't listen to me, right? Don't listen to me just because I'm the teacher, right? You need to go figure this out because I could just be lying to you and then you just believe it. You tell these kids that, like, in public school where I grew up, the teacher is judge, jury, executioner. They are God, right? Yep. You don't go against what they said, and if you do and they're found out wrong, their ego can't take it,
right? And
they'll get mad at you, and you'll be the black sheep for the rest of the semester,
right?
So I love that. I love that you do that and you test them, and then they're like, well, shit, we can't go to roof or anything, right? Like, because like you said, he doesn't know anything. You don't help them with like just giving them the answer,
right?
And that's so, like, how great would it be if everybody kind of had that approach in ways, right?
Right.
Instead, we all want immediate gratification. You talked about glory finding earlier, right? We want this immediate gratification. We want to call tech support and just get the problem fixed. Look at how many of our parents can't use Google, right? It seems like this thing for my generation growing up and the younger ones is so automatic to just literally the first thing on Google says, click this button, then this one, and then you're done. Right. And obviously things can be more complicated, but they don't even think to do that because they were taught to look at a fucking card catalog or some shit, and this doesn't compute with how to problem solve.
Right. It's that, and it's a missed opportunity, the use of imagination as a child was very limited.
Mm-hmm.
Imagination doesn't have to be going to La La Land.
No,
it's about arriving to the same answer in a million possible ways.
Yep.
And you need to find out which possible way you want to choose it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's again another beautiful statement. That's like, there's no one way to do anything. Many people have this idea that, well, people need to be raised in a green field like this, where dogs and kids can run around and stuff. Like, some people live in the middle of a city. This doesn't exist.
Right.
And to tell somebody their experience is invalid because they don't have this thing.
All right.
when I grew up, I went out, the sun came up, and I came back home, and the sun came down. Like there's millions of people that they cannot have that experience.
Right.
And then you're gonna put down this line in the sand saying, "Well, I don't understand you then," or "You're wrong. You're
Right.
living life wrong."
Yep.
Because it's not the way I lived it.
Exactly.
What if you had that with your fucking past? You'd have a very limited group of people that you could talk to, right?
Right, exactly. And I'm so blessed that I decided to break away from that and started traveling and seeing the world.
Yeah.
You know, all the books in the world could have taught me all that information, but there's nothing like experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the kind of learner I am, and I'm an experiential learner. You know, all the books, all the movies can inspire me, but to a certain capacity, until I'm sitting there, I am the one who's going through it, and that really brings lessons to completion.
Yeah. Well, you have to have the experience yourself, right? There's a lot of people that need that. They need Good Will Hunting. You've seen that movie, right?
Oh yeah,
where he's talking like, you can tell me everything about the Sistine Chapel, but you've never been there. You
Right.
don't know. You don't know what the ticket dude sounded like at the front. You don't know all the people taking pictures. You don't, like, he doesn't go that. But that's what I picture now, having
Right.
been places that I've been.
Right.
It's a full thing, you know. A lot of people do need to learn through good and bad experience. You can tell somebody something's hot, but they have to try it.
Right.
You know, and you don't need to get mad at them for trying it. Of course they are.
Right. And what's hot for you can be not so hot for the other person. Then you started realizing, oh wow,
yeah,
what's that all about?
Yeah, no, I've said that one a lot of times. Like certain addictions, like, Root, why do you have a gambling problem? It's so easy to not gamble. I have no problem with it at all. Why can't you just be like me? And it's like, wow, LT, I didn't think of that. Why don't I just not have this problem? Like, that's how a lot of people say, like,
Right.
Oh, you're struggling with this. Oh, you're depressed. Just stop being depressed. That's what I do. Like,
well, again, lack of empathy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does it feel to walk in somebody's shoes?
Yeah.
Can we imagine that? Have we experienced that?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these are the things we need to bring back to our education system as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about trying to become a doctor or a nurse. You know, I've seen great doctors.
Yeah.
And I also see miserable doctors.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We're all people, right?
Exactly. They were forced to do something that their heart was not longing for, but society, parents, socioeconomics have forced them to become somebody who they're not. So, you know, we need to stop being stereotyped.
Yeah.
An artist can be successful. Cook can be, you know, what's that reality show, The Dirty Jobs?
Yeah.
Oh, what a humbling experience that was.
Yeah.
You know, people literally picking up trash, but they're the happiest because that's what makes them happy.
Yeah.
It's not, and they're educated people, but they choose not to go that path. So it's always knowing who you are, and as an educator, that has become my number one priority, to see the human being, the child, as who they are, without any judgment, no subjective views.
Yeah.
And in the given moment, provide opportunities that continue to raise their joy and soul and have fun.
Yeah.
You can have fun and learn and that's what it's about.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. I think I didn't know how long we were going to go, but I think we should pause right here.
Yep.
And we can revisit it.
Absolutely.
And we will revisit it wherever we end up being. So I appreciate your time right now, and we'll cut to the next thing. I love you, man.
Love you too, LT.
All right. Hey, everyone. We teleported and we have new clothes and it's a new day. So I'm going to put this down so we can see us a little bit better. And I'm actually going to make sure. Doing that. Okay, cool. So, Rue, we are now at the place that you're staying. No more outdoors, beautiful outdoors. Ran out of battery yesterday, and we still have more to say. So that's what a new day is for, right?
That's what it is for. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's cool because I haven't done this yet. I didn't, there's no, I mean, there are things that say how to do a podcast online, but there's no rules in like having a two-part thing, and people that are listening aren't going to even, like just listening aren't even going to know. They're just going to say, oh, these guys are talking about something totally different. So we don't have to. I know we kind of dived into some certain stuff yesterday, and we've obviously had a different day today, and it's gonna bring up different things. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. So I think I'd only done one question with you yesterday, right?
That's what you said.
Okay. So we'll start it off with that. That's kind of how I like to do these things.
Yeah.
So we'll go with another one, a little bigger.
Yeah.
What do you feel like the meaning of life is, bro?
The meaning of life?
Yeah. Or the purpose of your life. Some people like that phrasing a little bit better.
It's on that bridge. Life is not about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. I've been reading that for a while and I've been
No shit.
trying to digest that idea. It's about creating yourself.
Mm.
And for me, so far, there's been major chapters in my life. And in the beginning stages of my life, it was really hard for me to move from one chapter to the other because I was holding on to all the memories of the previous one. But as life has taught me, I have started to recognize these new chapters, endings, new beginnings, crossroads, however you want to put it together.
Yeah.
Um, and it's to me, it's all about learning from those experiences, trying to tap into your own reality of patterns. We are predictable creatures. We are in our own patterns. Recognizing what are these behaviors, and as you move forward, how to break some of them, and how to implement some of them, and how to even recreate something out of nothing. So, as someone who has lived in so many different parts of the world, have lived in different types of lifestyles, I'm always about putting myself out of the comfort zone because I truly believe that's where learning and evolving happens.
Yeah.
And you can't bring that old shit into your new
Yeah.
new life.
Oh.
It's a failing system. So it's constantly being aware. And in order to do that, you need to be in a state of meditation in the present. Why am I feeling this way? Why is I'm in a brand new city
Mm.
with brand new people, but there are old feelings that are still staggering in my system. So, you stop and you ask yourself. So to me, it's about creating yourself. Every day is a gift, especially more than any time in life. You never know what tomorrow brings with this coronavirus.
Yeah.
So every day is an opportunity for you and for me, for all of us to bring out the best in ourselves. So it's about creating yourself. And to me, it's about giving back. How can I give back? Because I know deep, deep in my soul that I am loved, I'm guided, I'm protected by the universe within myself too. So when you leave all those unnecessary strains and stresses out of your system,
Yeah.
all I have is okay, what do I have to give? What are my gifts? So it's about creating yourself every day for a better path and just continue to serve and be served.
How well can you put it? That's awesome. I really don't feel like I have anything to add. Like literally, like I'm usually, I mean, I could say whatever, but I'm really would just be trying to relate with some of the things that you said. It's cool. For those of you that don't see, there's a fridge over there, and there's a kitchen magnet that says what he said. Life isn't about finding yourself; it's about creating yourself. That's we were talking last night at dinner, like that resonates with me because I told you, I come from like this nihilist background, and that's one of the cool things of that is that there's no, you make your own destiny, right? We make whatever we're trying to do, and not that I really would identify as that anymore, but I definitely believe in that idea of we have the opportunity to create or to make whatever we want in our life. And I really like that you touched on, carrying old shit with us when we go to new places and stuff. That was one of the things when we first met. You had talked about how you spent all your 20s traveling everywhere, you know, and that was something I was like, cool. Like I want this dude's perspective. He's doing the stuff that I'm hoping to do, right? And there's no coincidence, right? Coincidence is such bullshit. There's no coincidence that that was like, okay, and here I am starting my own journey where I want to be able to leave behind things that are not serving me. And we were talking. Was that yesterday or today? All my time is blending together, but
Right.
I want to find myself in that difficult situation where I don't know what to do next. Right, those dark places, wherever it's at. The last time I felt that way was when I was hiking. I was hiking Mount Humphreys or Humphreys Peak or whatever, the highest place in Arizona. It was like a 6.5 hour hike. I don't think I ever done anything that long or treacherous. And I went to these places where I'm like, I don't know if I can fucking make it out of here, or
Yeah.
like I'm gonna have to sit here and take a nap. I only brought literally, where is it? This much water.
Yep.
This is so
Yeah.
stupid. And but I'm gonna keep going, right? That's what I need to do is keep moving my feet. And I know that in this journey, um, I'm gonna have times, and I want to share that with people too. This is something that I've thought a lot about. When I get to those points, I don't want to just only put on Instagram like, "Hey guys, look, I'm in Napa Valley. It's super dope. Look at all this food." Like that's gonna be a part of it because there's a lot of joy in life. There's also gonna be times where I want to put on there like, "Hey, I don't know if this is what I want to even be fucking doing." Right? Like I feel lost today because there's gonna be times like that, and I want to think that I have the courage to say that whenever it's happening because I don't. We were talking about vulnerabilities yesterday. Like I'm interested in when that's going to happen because that's the time where I know every other time in my life I've persevered
Hmm.
and I've figured it out. And the beautiful thing is there's no wrong path.
Right.
I really believe that from both of our histories. There's no. We've talked. I know in our conversations a lot about regrets and how there's really no room for that. Especially in the way that we're choosing to live our lives, there's no room to have regrets on anything. Every single thing is a learning experience. And you hear this all the time, whether it's in sports, you hear the thing where you either win or you learn. Like,
Sorry.
there's so much wisdom in such a simple saying like that. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing. I look forward to editing this and listening to what you said again. And hopefully, I think a lot of people will get something out of that. Um, yeah, that's really cool. I'm going to shift it. I'm going to go right into another question. Or what do they, rapid fire. We've talked a lot about like what we want to do and stuff. If you right now if money was zero object uh, or obstacle, money was no obstacle, you could do anything that you wanted right now. What would you do, bro?
Travel. I think there's a lot to learn from traveling. Um, Again, if I put myself in Southern California to Northern California, I'm in a completely different place.
Yeah.
So the environments are, to me, the environment is a very interesting place. Even with my work I do,
Yeah.
creating an environment has become one of the biggest challenges as an educator for me because you're creating space for these children to walk in and without even speaking to them, rather let their energy align with the classroom's energy. That creates safety and that creates trust, and trust give them an opportunity to explore, and through that exploration they get to reflect and have a feel for who they are.
Mm.
To me, that's what a classroom environment is about. And I have to fine tune it every year because every year the group of children who are coming has a very different dynamic. So I have to constantly fine tune this classroom. So it's a living, breathing thing, even though these are materials
Yeah.
made out of wood or real clay and pots. It needs to be constantly shift because the flow changes every year.
Yeah.
So I look at environments the same way. How I was raised and born in Sri Lanka, and how I lived in LA, and how I lived in Australia, and how I lived in Switzerland and Arizona, never the same. I was never that same person. Of course, it happened in different stages of my life too, but I know the environment played a very powerful uh, part to shifting me and putting me in these dark places, and also putting me in these highs that I never experienced. So if money was never an option, I would just travel, meet people, listen to them, try to understand why they do the things they do,
Yeah.
eat their food. There's so much you can learn from a bite from their
Yeah.
food. Music, just listen to their music, look at their clothing, just take it all in and see how you respond to that. I mean, to
Yeah.
me, that's one of the most ultimate way of living life, and share your experiences with them, because most of us are so comfortable living in our own little 5 mile radius
Yeah.
that is across the world. So I will always become that outsider who will bring more information to them firsthand, rather than from a media outlet. So I would like to be that spokesperson as well. So just talking, listening, adapting, absorbing, all that good stuff, to
Yeah.
me, can that's something I would really do.
Yeah. Well, and what's cool is you've done a lot of that in your life, so
Yeah,
like that's always this cool thing, like especially when you have firsthand experience with it, like this is something that resonates with, um, and you've had a lot of different experiences, and you're like, yeah, I want to go. We've talked about this too, because this is what I'm doing, so obviously it brings up conversations of travel, but I like the idea of you being a spokesperson for at least our part of the world or whatever. If you're, because you're American, you
yeah,
can share this with the world. I mean, you're more than just an American, right? These identities that we have.
yeah.
It's interesting too. I know we've talked about. I don't bring up. We've talked about when you were living in Switzerland, how you. I feel like that's maybe part of what you're talking about, of carrying old stuff. Like, you went to this really cool place, and no matter where you go, there you are still, right? We can adopt these things, and they bring out different things because we meet people. There's different energies, but ultimately, there's still work that needs to be done, and sometimes that's all that is present. Is the
Exactly.
weight of all
Right.
our decisions.
Exactly.
And I felt that way in certain vacations. I never felt it going to another country, but it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
Where I've gone, and I was the one that was like, this traffic sucks and the weather's bad and like blah blah. I don't really like this food, like meh, and everything's muh. Like
Right.
that's the perfect sound I have for it. It's just like muh, right?
Right.
And I felt that way. I felt that way anywhere
Right.
because there's something wrong in here, you
Mm.
know. Um, but I'm I'm with you on the fact that there is so, like, when I went and traveled, when I was in Sweden last time, like I wanted to know about local culture, but every single time they were like, "So tell us about America and like tell us about this and what are your," and I'm like, dude, I want to know about you guys, and I like couldn't learn enough about them because I was constantly having to give my opinions on gun control and medical and just not even like political issues like that, but just anything. What's it like to be in this place, and
Right.
sharing. They think of America as America,
Hmm.
and when I think of America, I think definitely different states. Like I'm from Arizona. You guys
Right.
probably never even really heard about us.
Right.
Um, I they ask about, like, for instance, like school shootings. I'm like, yes, I think that's an issue. There haven't been any in Arizona, so every single one feels far away,
Right.
right? And not that I think that takes away any meaning, but it's one of those things, like I can only imagine how it is when it's more close to home.
Right.
But I'm like, it's the same thing as, and I would like explain it to them, like, you're in like Sweden, like if there was a school shooting in France, like how would you feel about it? They're like,
Right.
well, it would suck. I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel whenever something happens over there. It's like, oh, that's a whole other 3,000 miles away. Like,
Right.
um, and it still sucks. It's just, I get why we get so desensitized to these things on the news, and obviously I don't, I don't even remember the last time I watched the news, but you still see these things, right? But I spent a lot of time answering those questions, and I was just so interested. Like you mentioned, like just people watching. I would just walk around the city and just look and see all the beauty. You know, the different outfits, the way people walk, the way they speak, the words they use, and the food. I mean, that's a common thing, right? I think everybody, whether they want to call themselves, I wish we had a better word than foodie. Like, I wish
Right.
we had a cooler word. Like, where's, you know, what's a cool word? Like hypothalamus. Like, I wish that was like a word we could use to describe foodie,
Right.
or something really grand. Instead, it's
Uh-huh.
like this
What's the
thing.
French word we looked at today?
Oh, charcuterie. Ah,
Charcuterie.
charcuterie. If I was a charcuterie enthusiast or something like that,
Something like that.
that would sound cooler, right? Instead
Right.
of like, foodie.
Foodie.
And that's fine. I mean, some people like that word. That's not me. We can all like different words. That's the beauty of life, right?
Right.
Yeah, obviously travel resonates with me, you know, because I think there are so many perspectives out there. I think that even my time spent in Arizona, all the people that I've met here from different places, people that were born and raised there, I've learned from all those people. And I know even just in the brief time that I spent overseas, I it's just like mind blowing things. Like, for instance, I know you probably have way more things than I do. If this is a pissing contest, but it's not. On all the doors in Sweden, when you lock it, when you're on the airplane and you do it and it says occupied. All of the doors in Sweden say like it's done. Like all the bathrooms, even the ones in the residential, like in the condo that they stay at, it says that. So before you don't even have to knock. It just says, "Oh, this is used."
Right.
The fuck don't we have that here?
Right.
It's so basic. If you go to Home Depot, you will not find that here.
Right.
Why? It's like this is human evolution. Like, why don't we have that? I don't fucking know.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that are like that where I'm like, wait, you guys do it this way? Like, that's like I never even thought about that because I just never see it.
Yeah.
I want more of those mindfuck moments where I'm just like, dude, like this is so cool. That's a really basic one that everyone. Hopefully, there's people nodding and agreeing too, listening to this that are like, yeah, why don't we have that? I don't know. I'm not the planner. I'm sure there's probably lobbyists that say no, we don't want this. That's a European idea. We won't make anything. I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. So it's
Do you have any that stick out to you or no?
Oh,
You've been a lot of places. Is there anything like from Sri Lanka that we don't do here?
oh, there's a lot of you guys don't do. For the better, I
For
guess.
the better.
Yeah, it's a whole other world there. Like I said, like when I went back to Sri Lanka, Colombo, it's a 5 mile radius and packed with about 1 million people, day and night.
Jesus.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
and traffic lights doesn't make any sense. People are driving in every direction. But it's a system.
Yeah.
It's a system that works for them. It's a system that worked for me when I grew up there.
Yeah.
But now that I've exposed to a very different system, when I go there, I lose it. I lose my shit. I'm like cussing every 5 minutes. So I don't drive when I go to places like that. So I don't have that kind of discipline anymore, or I'm not adaptable enough for that kind of chaos. I mean, you're looking at dogs, cows, people, bicycles, tuk-tuks. Dude, they're just randomly running all over the place. Traffic light says red, but the cop is saying
Still
green,
going.
go. And it's like, what? And it's like 100 degrees humid, it's 100 degrees hot. It's just unbelievable. But it's a way of life for them. It makes sense to them.
Yeah.
So those things are like really fascinates me. Like, how the hell will even do that? But they're doing it, and they're doing it so well. And I am the problem there because
Yeah.
I don't fit in there, and I'm trying to do this what I believe is proper.
Yeah.
Is actually causing more damage and more opportunity to get into an accident
Yeah.
than their 99.9% chaos. So it's both ways, I guess.
Yeah. Well, all I've seen are videos and stuff like that. Like you see videos of places in India or China or Thailand, and you're like, what chaos? But obviously, it's if it was really that bad, they wouldn't do it that way, right? So they figured out something,
Right.
And I feel that way here. Like I remember going to like, no offense to Tucson, but for years I would go down to Tucson, and they just had a ridiculous amount of one-way streets. I'm like, the fuck is it so hard to? I want to get over there. Like, how do I go? And I know how one week streets work, but it's like a square,
Right.
But I was just like, why can't I just go and fuck over there? Like, there's like, I know in downtown Phoenix it's like that, but I just felt so confused. And then there was construction, and then this one wasn't. It was just like, dude, what a nightmare.
Right.
This, like, how does this system fucking work? And
Right.
it's under construction for 10 years. Like,
Right.
the fuck?
Have you ever made a hook turn ever in your life?
I don't know what that is. Is that like a U-turn, or is that something
No.
different?
So a hook turn. So this is something happened to me in Melbourne. You know, in most parts of the world,
Yeah.
to make a left, you just go forward and you make a left. But in some streets in Melbourne, especially downtown, you cannot make a left turn. So you drive and you lean towards the right side, and then when the light changes, you make a hook turn.
What? That doesn't make any
I
sense.
know, but that I was like, so on top of that, they were driving on the other side of the street,
Yeah.
and then hook turns. It's just fascinating. At first, I was super frustrated and bitching about it, but that was a time where I was going through these changes. I'm like, I need to change my attitude. If I'm in Melbourne, Australia, I need to adapt to this. This is how life is going to be if I want to be a traveler. So I'm like, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So my attitude just changed, and that was such a fun thing to do afterwards. But it's interesting. It's an old school method,
Yeah.
but they're still following it with all these new changes have taken place.
It makes me wonder. I've been in a couple of car accidents where, like, one woman in particular, whoever she was, she got in the left-hand turn lane,
Hmm.
and then I was turning right, and she decided from the left-hand turn lane that she needed to go right to a one-lane road, and she sideswiped me, and I wasn't even mad. It was my birthday. I was on the way to a water park with my
Oh,
friends in the car,
dude.
and I got out with no shirt, right, and shorts, and she's got like a van full of kids and shit, and I was just like, what was that? Like, that was like my main question. Like, what
Right,
were
right,
you doing? And
right.
she was just like, I don't know. I'm like, your car looks worse than mine. I have an old piece of shit. Good luck. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
just
good. If you're good with it, I don't need to call the cops. I don't care. I'm gonna go.
right.
I have more important things to do. But I was like, when I got back in the car, we all asked the same question, like, how did that ever make sense? I'm like,
Right.
but now I'm thinking, like, maybe, just maybe, she was from another country and was like, oh, this is I don't know, man. I don't have to know. That's the cool
Right,
thing. We've
right.
been talking a lot about that this weekend of asking questions. But
I remember when I was 16, I was driving my parents' car. I was in the hospital because I was playing rugby. I had to go like get treatments for my legs.
yeah,
So me and my homeboy were sitting in my car, and traffic just bumper to bumper. We're not even moving. We can see a tuk-tuk coming 100 miles an hour, just wow, wow, just cutting through. It was just out of control. While everything was at halt, this thing was just going crazy.
Mhm.
And it was coming my direction. So he was trying to go through my car and another vehicle, and it gets stuck. Okay? It just gets
Jesus.
stuck.
Oh no.
And I'm looking at him because it's my dad's car, and I'm gonna get my ass whooped for doing this. And you know what this guy's excuse was? It's like, my brakes are not working.
What?
And there's an old lady in the back. She was terrified. She was squeezing the neck of her cat. And this guy was driving like a maniac because his brake was not working. And he thought he will make it through the traffic. Dude, I was so ready to punch him, but I couldn't open the door because this thing was stuck into my car. And my friend was like, dude, just breathe. Just breathe. I'm like, I just want to kill this guy, man. Here we are. It's just such a trip, man. And
Yeah.
especially when you travel a lot, you start seeing these things, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's such a
Yeah.
incredible place.
Well, it makes me think two things. Like, one, the adaptability, right? Of like, that's a key thing. Like, instead of, I always think of, we communicate so much through memes. Like, there's a Simpsons meme of the principal saying like, like people driving like our like our regular left turns, like, the problem, like, And he says like, no, it must be this that's the problem. Like it's always like this blaming thing. I'm not doing the meme justice, but I think of that with this. Like when I go travel somewhere, like their lines are weird. Like, are they the problem? Like, am I the problem? No, no, no. But like,
Right.
I'm glad you get what I'm trying to say. But like, I taking that step back and realize, okay, like let's see the way they do things, right? And a lot of times it makes sense. It's just different. And what our go-to is when we see something new, we want to reject it, right?
Right.
If there's a band that I love that one of their lines is like, "We fear what we don't understand," right?
That's right.
And I know that's not just a band thing, but I think of that, and that's where most people are. They're like, "Oh, insert any topic here. I don't get your religion or your political views or your sexual identity, whatever it is. Therefore, I reject it because I don't know what it means. So
Right.
I need to keep you at arm's length first before I can get an idea." And I don't blame people for doing that. That's how we survive. That's how we evolve, right? But I like being in that place where I'm not so like stiff arming people like football or rugby. Or can you stiff arm rugby? You can, right?
Totally.
Not like that, but just kind of keeping them here, right? Like I can keep my arm here and just kind of take a better look. For some reason I have the visual of like animals. Like you ever meet a cat, you stick your hand out, the cat goes like
Yeah.
that, and then if they like you, they'll rub up against you, like you can pet me now. And I'm
Right.
like, oh hey, like
Exactly.
cool, we're friends now.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of travel. It's always gonna hit so many uncomfortable places in your own reality, and it's all about present, conscious, and being open, being flexible. I mean, all these very important life skills are thrown at you.
Yeah.
And all the books in the world, all the documentaries you watch will not be sufficient when you're actually in that experience.
Yeah.
Especially if you go to a country that does not speak the language that you're not familiar with. But that's tough on you. You really start getting headaches and you just surrender and everything. You gotta think 100 times more. You gotta like super focus. At least back then you didn't have all these translators and apps and stuff. You just gotta like, all right, figure out. You gotta really look into these characters. Okay, that's a mountain. Okay, that's what you need to do. I'm heading towards the mountains and work with your instincts.
Yeah,
But
trusting those things.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing that I noticed when I was in Sweden is I could ask for help, and there would usually be somebody that could at least point me in the right direction.
Yeah.
Enough, right? I mean, luckily that was a place where they kind of understood English, but I feel like anywhere, when we see people in need, if I saw somebody in need, there's gonna be a bunch of people that just walk by. There's gonna be some people who are like, "What are you saying?" Like,
Yeah.
and then you're looking, pointing, we're communicating back with just these, right? And they're like, that way. And you're like, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go this way. And hopefully that's the right way. You mentioned too that, like you wanted to hit that guy, that got stuck, going this way and stuff. And you mentioned something earlier too, but like, it's so strange for me. Like, I know that you have the capabilities to be angry, right? I just don't think I've ever even seen it in the last year that I've known you.
Yeah.
If you have, I mean, it hasn't come out in the way like where I feel like you'd ever get in a fight, right? But I know that that's within me, and people have said certain things about me, especially like Maria or any of my close friends and stuff. They're like, "What? Like you've been in fights?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
I've been in fights, right?" Like, I just can't picture it. Like I can't
Right.
picture you breaking shit. I can't picture like it's there. It's just not. I've done a lot. Like, so do you remember the last time that you've gotten mad? Is that something that sticks out to you, like recently or anything? Mad, not just frustrated. I've seen you get frustrated, like, oh, this guy or whatever, but you let it go so fast. No,
No,
it's been a while.
yeah.
Huh, that's cool. I don't need to hear that story. I was just curious because it's just I know that you're capable of it because we're all people, right? But it's just so interesting to think like picturing you as like a rugby player and this angry dude that would get in a fight and like go around in Sri Lanka and stuff is just I know that was a long time ago for you, but
Yeah.
it's just like trying to picture it so interesting now.
So again, going back to what I said, adapting, when I first moved to the US, I brought those things with
Yeah.
because that's how I grew, that's how I survived, that's how I made myself a name or whatever.
Yeah.
But I knew for some reason if I continue to go this path, nothing good is gonna come, especially in this foreign country from
Yeah.
and there were very close calls and I was one of those lucky ones who immediately learned from them. I'm like, no, if I continue to do these things, I'm just either gonna die or I'm gonna end up in jail or everything that this new chapter in my life is ready to give me is going to disappear. So I made a conscious choice and I started giving up that. And I
Yeah.
think I started realizing, yeah, at a certain point in my life, that anger, those energies really is necessary,
Yeah.
but now they don't serve a purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I had those experiences because they processed, I fully experienced it, and I have other tools in my kit
Yeah.
that I can operate. You know, being self-centered. You know, when I say self-centered, I'm talking just being centered with my own self, being more calm, working on my energy. I think that's so much easier for me than being mad at anybody.
Hmm.
If I'm mad at somebody, that means I'm mad at myself because it's my own perception. There's unhealed parts of that's all it is. So the more calm I am, the less I am reacting and more I am responding. I know I'm more control of myself. That helps.
Dude, I completely agree with the anytime that I see a problem in someone else, that's always, not always, that's a good reminder for me to look at myself.
Yeah.
I had an old sponsor who said it. I was going to meetings, right? And there was like, we go to meetings and there's certain times where you go to, and they're supposed to share about a topic or something like that.
Yeah.
And what they do is for 30 minutes they tell you what it was like to shoot heroin, right?
Mm,
You're like, oh my god. And I would take this shit personally. I was like, I fuck this bitch, right? Or this dude or whoever it was. I would get so mad.
right.
And I would leave the meeting. People would know. And I was the dude that started this meeting. And here I am leaving during someone's share and like, doesn't look good, right? And I didn't want that to be my response, but I just couldn't stand there.
Right.
And he's like, okay. He's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, no, it's not me, it's them. And this is the clear cut reasons. Look at my hypothesis and like all my facts of, evidence and stuff like that. And he's like, look at this. Like, have you been to meetings where people did that and you didn't get mad? I was like, yeah. So what was different? And I was like, he's like, look at it this way. Me and you right now, Rube, you haven't eaten in 3 days, right? You starved, you whatever it was. And here I am. We're trying to have a conversation on a podcast, and I'm having a big steak dinner. Slowly doing this. Are you gonna pay attention to anything that I'm saying, or are you just gonna be thinking about the steak? Right? When you're hungry, you're gonna focus on not what's going on. If you're full, if you had just eaten and then here I am eating steak, you're gonna pay attention to me. You're not thinking about this other thing. So when I was going to, he let me know. He's like, "What's going on with you is that you're not getting what you need, and then you're looking at this place to get what you need, and it's not serving any food for you, right?" And so of course you're gonna pick it apart and get angry and want to leave because it's not serving you.
Right.
So you need to figure out how you can get full.
That's well said. That's beautiful.
Yeah, dude, that it stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I've shared that with people, and I'm glad that it resonates with you too. So I've used that as a reminder. If I get mad at how someone does something or why they think the way they think, I'm like, all right. When I'm in that good place, when I'm full, I can have an understanding for them and still not agree with them, but I don't have to get mad about it. That's the distinction. That's where the place I've gotten to, right? I don't have to take it personally.
Right.
This person believes this ideology, like, it doesn't have to offend me.
Right.
But that's not something that just came overnight because I heard him say that. It was all this work, and then I started noticing it. I still got up and left meetings since then, trust me. Like,
Oh, yeah.
but what I did with it, instead of going off and distracting myself, I'd go for a walk.
Yeah.
And I'd really break it down. And what I started doing then was I would come back to them. So I would leave it for 5 or 10 minutes, get my center, realize remember my why I'm here. And I would come back full, at least full enough to get through, I had my bite to eat, and then I could be more present, right?
I can totally relate to you in the classroom. That's what happens. My ego is always trying to take over and say, this child needs to behave this way. This child should be
Yeah.
doing this work. She's 7 years old. She should do this. But this child is doing something else. My ego is always telling me how these children should behave according to my upbringings and according to my ego as a teacher. This is what successful classroom should look like.
Yeah.
I get frustrated. And luckily, I'm in a space where I'm always breathing and conscious and asking these questions. Why am I feeling this way? And that's what I do.
Yeah.
I walk away because, again, this is not my classroom. This is not my place in time. This is what they need to do. That's why they're doing it. So I walk away, take a deep breath, and ask that, why am I here? Just creating a space for them.
Yeah.
And what they do, they know what's best for them. They're doing their best. They're doing their best. And then I come back, and then I'm again in a much more calmer way, and I'm seeing the very same child that I saw frustration from a place of love. I'm like, that's beautiful. So within like minutes, your perception can change, and within that same minute, the person or the situation you're looking at can be seen from a very different perspective, and it's all the inner work.
It makes me think things are different than this old saying that you maybe heard. Like, if you heard somebody say, like, if everyone just drove like me, there wouldn't be any
Right.
traffic or any accidents. We take that and we apply it to everything. If everybody did like I did, then the world would be better.
Right.
And we do that from a very misguided sense because everybody thinks they're right. We wouldn't be doing what we did if we didn't think that it was right or the way to do things. But it's not that way
No.
at all. And it's hard. That's a shot to our ego to say that. Like, oh man, there's a different way to do things. Or to expect that this little girl is going to live life the way you think she should.
Right.
I could see that being really difficult for parents, for educators. Like, even I'll share a quick story of me, and hopefully a lot of people you can probably relate with girlfriends, right?
Mm-hmm.
I dated a girl. I've dated multiple girls, but one girl in particular that could never be on time, right? Like, she knew we needed to leave at 6:30 to be at this place on time, and she had from like 1 in the afternoon until then to get ready. And somehow it's 6:25 and she's like just taking a shower or something like that. And I used to be like, what? I'd get mad. I'm like, the fuck's wrong with you? Like, and I wouldn't say it like that. Let me be accurate in what it was. Like, babe, are you almost ready? Like, I said we need to leave by 6:30. She's like, yeah, I'm hurrying. I'll be ready. And I'm like looking at my phone, and this is where I go into this mode, like looking at my phone. Now it's 6:34, and I'm like, babe, are you? She's like, oh my god, like, and then she snaps at me because she feels attacked, and then it turns into this thing, and then we're not leaving until 6:50, whatever it is, and we're in the car, and she's still trying to put her makeup on, and she's mad at me, and she can feel my energy. I'm like pissed, right? But I'm not like lashing out because I don't really do that anymore. But I'm just like, it's an uncomfortable car ride, and then we get there, and everybody feels our energy. Like, if we're going out to dinner or something, they feel this tension as we come in, and we kind of dissipates, right? We come back to this thing, and then it really doesn't matter. At the end of the night, do I even remember that we were late to the dinner?
Right.
No one fucking cared. Or a lot of times it was meetings, like AA meetings. And like, what I started doing as like a little helpful thing was like you said, like, okay, she's in her own world. I have zero control over when, like, what control, if I look at what I do have control over, I could take a different car and just get there. If it's something that's really important to me,
Right.
I can get to work on time. I get to meet up with the people that matter to me on time.
Right.
Does getting there on time matter to me that much? If it does, then here's a solution. And then I asked myself that, and I was like, No, it doesn't. Because we're gonna get there when we get there. I want to be with this person.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so what can I do in the meantime? Is there more productive ways to spend that 20 minutes than looking at my phone every minute thinking, fuck, 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 and I'm just manifesting that and snapping at her, and then she's more stressed, right? And then it's
Right.
just a not good situation. So what I started doing was like, I had to experiment a little bit to see what worked best. But a lot of times I was like, hey, are you ready to go? And she's like, no, I can still get. I'm like, that's cool. I'm gonna play some video games. And I would go to the living room, and it's not exactly like you hear that and you're thinking that I'm about to say she got ready faster. She didn't. Like, but what happened was she got ready in her own space
Yep.
without my anxiety. I got to do something that was fun for me, whether it was video games or my phone or read or whatever, right? I killed time in a way that I felt good about myself. And then she would come out and she's like, hey, you ready? And I'm like, yep, let's go. And then we'd have that little conversation on the way there. She's like, I'm sorry, like I was late. I'm like, dude, you're good. If I wanted to get here, I'd get here. She's like, hey. And like when we walked in, I'd kiss her and we'd walk in and we'd be late, but it didn't matter. I
Yeah.
didn't care.
Right.
And then suddenly the rest of my life had less stress in it. And then our relationship was a little bit better. It still, I mean, it still didn't last or anything like that. But I learned that if I take care of myself, I'm in this place to respond better, and everything's just better just from what I did for me.
Right.
And again, reiterating, I don't have any control over anybody else. Period.
Yeah.
And I don't want control over any. It's hard enough to live my life, right?
Exactly.
So that's my little story to
Yeah.
kind of illustrate that. But that's like that with a little kid or with our parents or with everybody, dude. She's trying her best too. I really got to see that when I took a step back. I realized she wasn't doing this to me.
Right.
She was constantly running late because of the way she's lived her life for her, X amount of time she's been here. So anyway, cool. I guess I'll do another one for you. You ready for another question?
Sure.
All right. Do you have, so I know you mentioned that sign up there. Do you have like any sort of, in like this recent past since you came out to Napa Valley, any sort of mantra that you've been like saying to yourself, anything that has been sticking with you? And if we've already discussed it, that's fine. You can just say it. We can move on. I just was curious if there's something that kind of resonated.
Um, there's few mantras that I tell myself. Uh, one I always say is all is well, because all is well.
Yeah.
And I am abundant. Um, now, for a while, the word abundant meant lots of materialistic riches and things like that.
Yeah.
But as I meditate on these words, it's like abundance can come in so many ways. When I came to Napa, as you know, there were 2 fires already, and there were days where we just could not even go out because it was just raining ash.
Hey, you sent me pictures.
Right, and we were in like purple uh, with the air quality, and even though we were indoors, coughing was coming. It was really bad. So the power of breath, the fresh air, something I wanted to gain more than anything when I moved from Arizona was even taken away. So it's that, and when the days got better, I'm always outside now, breathing this fresh air. And it's a simple thing: sunshine, fresh air, a walk, nature, a fresh cup of coffee or water. These are the things to me that is abundant. I'm healthy. I wake up every morning feeling great. Now there's every morning I have an opportunity to do something with myself. So my attitude and my view about this word abundance have changed quite a bit. So, and knowing that always that I'm well, I'm taken care of, I'm guided. I just it has put me in such a place of peace, and knowing that, like we talked earlier, it doesn't matter which direction I go, I will The journey is going to take me where I'm supposed to go. I just need to stop, enjoy smelling the roses, and just be present wherever it goes and whoever comes. Even the setbacks are so important for our lives. These are learning moments. That's what it's about. So yeah, the word abundant, all is well, are like a
Like
couple of
this.
things that I'm always just like telling myself, because I am. 30, 40 years ago, I lived a completely different life in a third world country with civil war. And, the stories can go on and on, the things that didn't work out for me. But with all that, I managed to manifest so many different lives and travel around the world and meet people and educate myself. And just I'm abundant.
You are, man.
So it's that it's such a good place to be, knowing that it's all good. Just having the time of my life.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. That made me think of something that one of our conversations on the Napa River or whatever stuck out. I'd like to hear you give your thing on it, but it's this idea you mentioned a couple times now. It's like what we're carrying with us, right? You mentioned when you came over here from Sri Lanka, you carried this stuff and you had to kind of let go, right? You had to let go of the stuff to open it up. I'm definitely a proponent of things happen in a vacuum, right? If you have a closet full of clothes, you know, and you want to change your wardrobe, like you got to get rid of what you had first in order to make space for this. That's just like a really material explanation of it. But if you have a bunch of negative stuff, you can't put positive stuff in there. It's full. There's
Right.
too much. So what you have to do is you have to start emptying it out. Start letting go of this. And you had talked the other night about like it's not so much. You had a great way. Something that resonated was like um not like thanking the universe, like thanking ourselves because we are this representation of the universe, right? And how I was the one that opened up to let this stuff in. Um,
Right.
so if you could, I'm putting you on the spot with it, but if you could talk a little bit more about that because I kind of hit the general thing, but I just love the fact that the letting go of these things. We talked about. I just had the visual in my head of like letting go of shit, like just
Yeah.
getting it out of your
Right.
hand
Right.
so that way there could actually be good things coming and then you have to sort through because it's not just good things that come in,
Right.
there's all these things,
Right.
right?
Right. Um, you know, I've heard that people say, I'm just putting it out to the universe,
Yeah,
expecting the universe to give it back to you.
yeah,
And to me, it's a little bit different than that. To me, it's like the universe, God, however, whatever the
hmm,
word you use, is simply responding to you.
yes,
That's what it's about. He or she or this entity or this energy is not like, LT, look at him, he's doing so good. I need to, oh, he needs a lesson now because he haven't had a lesson for 6 months. No, that's
yeah.
not, it's not waiting to punish us, or it's not waiting to shower us with gifts. No, it's simply responding to who you are. And for not millions, like hundreds of thousands of years, we've been looking outwards in the sky and trying to understand the astrology and the stars and the planets, but not realizing within ourselves there's an entire universe that we haven't even tapped into. So that's what meditation and praying and all this work is about, going within and realizing beyond these layers of our skin and muscle, blood, there's unlimited capacity of energy that is as expansive as the universe that we see in the outer layers. So the more you work it with yourself, it's only good gonna come. And I think that's why when people start meditating and working this inner stuff, a lot of ugly comes,
Yeah,
and shit gets really tough for us during that time because we are amplifying it and the universe is responding. That's all it is.
yeah,
And if you can power through all that crap that has been piling up, if you can break away from it, there's only love and light within. And the universe, as a law, has to respond to that. And that's where this true flow of energy and abundance and materialistic wealth, whatever you want, is
yeah.
just going to flow. So it's just opening up your space and breaking through those barriers and patterns and behaviors and whatever that has been blocking you, it it can only be taken care of by going within.
Yeah.
That inner discipline, the inner love, the inner light. Just gotta find it, because I believe we all came with it. We can go to a little children's classroom, you can see they're beaming with that. So is that the
That's yeah.
conversation?
No, that's you right on the nail on the head.
So yeah,
You have such a great way, because I can tell this is something that you've. I was talking with somebody. I don't know if the words, there's still adjustments to be made, and I'm curious, what I'll learn about this. But I think there's a definite. There's only a few things I would say are truths of this world, right? For me, um, there's a lot of things that I believe, right? I believe these things, but like one of the ones is, the more I learn to love you, the more I learn to love myself. The more I love myself, the more I learn to love you, right? That is a truth of this world, I believe. I've seen it time and time again in multiple people's lives. This is something that you explain, having had your own experience with it, and that's where the difference is between learning something and like knowing it, right? I think that's um, we can learn or believe something, but when we know it to be true, it is different. And so much of this life is monkey see, monkey do, right?
right.
I can parrot what some cool dude says. I say quotes all the time. Um, and people can sound good and articulate and eloquent and all these things, but there's something different. You feel it when somebody has had an experience. They can they can transmit that to you, and you can tell who's full of shit and who's just copying, who's doing a cookie cutter share. I would see that a lot in AA. Like somebody heard somebody say something,
Right.
they're like, oh, I want to say that in my share, then I'll sound good. Or the person who's just genuine and is sharing from here, not from here. We talk about that all the time, right? Sharing from the heart. This is one of those things I feel coming from your heart. We talked about it, and it was one of these things I think, I don't remember the exact phrasing that we had, but you changed just a word that I said, and I was like, oh man, that makes so much more sense. I'm very particular on the words that I use, or I try to be. Obviously English is weird, but I think there's a reason why we have all these different words, and they all do mean something different, and they can make this new way of seeing things. So I just wanted to hear you say it, for me again, because I the more I hear these things, the more they can be ingrained, and I can remember them as I go out into my world. But also, I think you have a great way, because you teach kids. I think that's a helpful thing. You have this way of articulating things in a way that makes sense as you break it down, right? It's this very coherent way to get information. Yeah, dude. It's cool, man. Yeah, and I love that visual. I'm realizing that I have all these visuals in my head, but just this letting go. I wanted to say too, you mentioned like getting through this backlog of shit. I wanted to share something that I learned when I was getting sober. Coming up on 8 years ago, I remember being in rehab, and my first sponsor, Ned, he was a good dude. He wasn't that much older than me, and he had this very interesting way to tell me about my problems, because I told him, all the stuff that I have to do. I need to find a sober living. I have court. I have blah blah blah. I have infinite problems, right? And he's like, LT, the way you're putting this up there, it's like you're looking up. You guys can visualize. There's just a big pile of shit above my head. That's what you're seeing. You're looking up and it's a cloud, and it's just shit. And there's no way that you're ever going to solve it, because it's just too much. It's going to fall right on your head. And he's like, but here's the thing. And it felt like I was in this like movie scene where he's like, it's like the Matrix, and he's like, it's not actually that. What it is just a little nugget of shit. And what do you do with this? You like take care of it, right? You dispose of it. And it's really not a big pile. It's just a bunch of little nuggets. And they're all things that are perfectly doable. You can take care of any of those things.
Yeah.
You can go to court. You can call a place. You can call another place. You can call another place and eventually find out where you're going to live, right? You can make amends to one person. You can have this conversation. You can apply for one job. all these things he was trying to say, there's just little nuggets of shit, not a big pile. So when you talk about having a backlog,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, where we feel like, oh, I'm never gonna get through all of it. Well, like if you have that mindset, no, you won't.
Right.
You're gonna keep adding on to it. We're gonna keep opening up the closet door, throwing something in, and making sure that it never really fully opens.
Right.
Right. And I think I don't know, just it felt necessary to say that every single person I think that's ever lived has felt that way in some extent, maybe to different magnitudes or whatever, but felt like they were behind and that they don't know how they're going to catch back up, right? Um, yeah. Is there any topics that you wanted to talk about? Otherwise, I can ask you the final question. You're good? I know we went for like an hour yesterday, so I'm not trying to extend if I don't
Right.
have to. I'm feeling like this is a lot for me to chew on, so I imagine if people are listening, they've got a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so the last question I've been asking people is, you know, if there's a dozen people listening, or however many people end up listening, if there's one thing you could share, one piece of advice, one anything that you would want to leave people with, what would that be? Like, what would you say, Ru, to whoever it is that's listening?
Um, just continue to work on your joy. We are here to enjoy. We're here to have fun. We're here to manifest. We are, like it or not, we're manifesting things all the time. We have that gift.
Yeah.
Some of us are doing it consciously, some of us are doing it unconsciously, some of us are consciously bringing wealth, abundance, happiness. Some of them are bringing consciously crap into their life. So we're very powerful creatures. Just listen to these stories, observe yourself, be in nature, walk away from things that are not serving you anymore, that might have served you a long time ago. But end of the day, always honor your truth. Um, there's going to be a lot of people who will walk away from your life or point the finger at you for you are honoring yourself, but don't be afraid of that. That means you have to let go of an old pattern. And old patterns includes people, relationships, jobs, money, status, all these things. But always remember you can recreate these things from a place of love. And when you let go of that, that space need to be filled with more stuff. And this time you're consciously bring more things that are important to you. So just be happy, and your happiness can change from moment to moment, but at least, just work towards it. I honestly don't think we are meant to suffer this way. We're meant to be disconnect this way. We're meant to bring each other down. It's never a competition. This universe is abundant. This world is abundant. There's plenty for all of us. We don't need to have this hoarder mentality.
Mm.
We really don't. You know, just sit with yourself, love yourself. Creation, opportunity, all this will flow to you. If money is what you want, there's abundance of that. If love is what you want, it's all waiting. It's all waiting within you. So in order to tap into that, you just need to be in a place of happiness. And I constantly get reminded by that by being around children and being around animals and just sitting in nature. And I'm like, look at these trees. Man, if they could speak our language, the stories and the wisdom they can tell us, they're complex creatures, but here they are just simply sitting. But
Mm.
but so much good is happening. They're sharing their it's just a fascinating world. And with technology and with with social media, with look at us right here, man. You know, there's so much good we can do with everything we have around. So
Yeah,
so my message is just work on your joy.
yeah,
You deserve it. We as a collective, more than ever before, we need to wake up and be happy. Enough is enough.
yeah. Dude, beautiful. I love it. And that's something I think you can have right now too. You know, it's not one of these things where it's I just want to be happy someday. I used to tell myself that. I want to, someday, not today, someday I want to be happy, you know? And all the things that we talked about, these things are all available. Or almost all of them are available right now. You know, you can go for a walk and it has to start somewhere, right? I think that's great. You know, we've since I've known you, it was always a thing. Like it's about enjoying this. Right? It doesn't need to be stressful. You know, let's go get a meal, right? Let's watch a movie. Let's think. Let's talk. Let's. There is so much joy to be found in all these simple things. You know, um, I was just in a mindset a long time ago where I didn't think it was possible. It seemed like a that joy was a destination, not
Part of the journey.
yeah, not a part of it. Yeah, exactly. Cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to having you again because you have so much to say, and I'm curious what your journey is going to look like, right, with all your travels and stuff, and who knows what that'll all look like. But I appreciate you so much taking the time to be on here and for housing me and everything. It's been a magical way to start this whole traveling journey that I'm on.
It's been a pleasure and an honor. Well, like I said, I've seen so much changes and transformation happen to you right in front of my eyes for the
Yeah,
last 6 to 7 months, and you're doing it, man. And I'm so excited for you, and I'm so glad our paths met because as much as I have given you, you have given me too. And this is what it's about.
yeah,
You know, we're all in our journey, but sometimes in these crossroads, we stop, we share, we talk, and we say, "All right, see you later,"
yeah,
and we
yeah,
just
yeah,
continue to go in our path, and it's a beautiful thing.
yeah.
That's how it should be. So, and all the best to you, man. And I know you're gonna do amazing things. You're already making it happen. That's
Appreciate it,
such a short time. So kudos to you.
dude. All right. Well, we will call it there, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thank you, Rue, and see you guys later.